Hey everybody, today we're talking about the movie Deadpool and Wolverine. Spoilers! Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent, and today we're talking about Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm still getting over being sick, so part of my voice, if it sounds a little funny, it sounds a little bit funny to me. I think we're almost done with it. But Deadpool and Wolverine. This is a spoiler review, so if you have not seen the movie, please pause this, go see it, come back and watch me after, and then you can be part of the conversation. There's so much to talk about with this movie that it will be hard to talk about without avoiding spoilers, because that's where the most fun stuff happens, right? So most of my movies are spoiler reviews anyway, especially the ones I really, really like. So there you go. All right. So you've watched the movie, you've come back. Now let's talk about it. All right. So, is this the best Deadpool film? No. Is it the best Marvel movie we've had in a while? Yes. Is it the joining of the MCU by Deadpool and Logan? No. I think that was the weirdest thing for me, like right off the bat, is that we don't have Deadpool joining the Avengers or the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We have some weird things with Happy Hogan in there, and the mention of the Avengers, but it doesn't really feel like it's part of that universe. And so much the fact that they talk about the core character or anchor being dying of Logan. So it makes me think that the movie still ends in the 20th Century Fox universe. And some of the comments I've seen from Ryan Reynolds saying like this is a goodbye to that Fox universe is totally true, even though we're still spending most of the movie in the void that was established in Loki. You know what I mean? So it's still tied in that way, but nowhere does, Deadpool jump over and talk to Sam Wilson, Captain America, or Tom Holland, Spider-Man, or anything like that of the main MCU people that we know. I almost want to call this movie fan service the movie, because there is some really deep stuff here that I loved as a comic book fan that I immediately got that my wife Amanda was sitting next to me. She did not get at all. Wolverine, when he's searching for the Wolverines in like the first 20 minutes of the movie, and you have the Mark Silvestri cover with Wolverine up on the cross from that X-Men issue with the skulls. Oh my gosh, so beautiful. I love that reference. Age of Apocalypse Wolverine with the giant hair. Love that. I think the only thing better that they could have done that they didn't do is if they went with Bone Claw Feral Wolverine without the nose. That would have been funny. But I love the idea of like, oh, comic accurate Wolverine's only 5'2", and he's this short little dude. I'm 5'8", so he would have been like right here or something, and just broad little Hugh Jackman. That was hilarious. The brown and tan suit, getting that with the reference to this Todd McFarlane cover against the Hulk. Love that. Just so many fun things, so much fan service there just for Wolverine fans was amazing and awesome. And then to get, for the Deadpool fans, the whole like Deadpool core at the end with Lady Deadpool, Dogpool, Headpool, baby kid Deadpool, is that the little baby guy? You have all those other guys there, like the samurai guy, the Japanese Deadpool. And then they cut off his arms and he's got the little baby arms, which is a callback to the first movie. That was hilarious. So many things to call back to for like fans of both characters. I felt was like really, really cool. The only thing this movie didn't have was a weasel joke to throw that guy under the bus, TJ Miller, right? So, oh well. But there's so much fun stuff here. And then besides all that, of just Wolverine comic fans and Deadpool comic fans, then you go into the Fox universe fans, which I don't know if there are any at all, but it blew my mind that those characters showed up. So I know that we kind of knew ahead of time that like Elektra was in the movie and Jennifer Garner was kind of like playing coy with it a little bit, but it wasn't as like, I wasn't paying attention to it that much as I was when No Way Home was coming out, and it was like, oh, those other Spider-Men are definitely in that movie. And even though they were like, no, I don't know what you're talking about, because they were all over the place promoting something else at the same time. So I was like, all right, Elektra's in it. I didn't realize that she was like a major part of it, much less at the same time when she walks in that bunker, and there's so many references in there. She walks in that bunker, there's 4 of us. And the next character walks in, and it's fucking Wesley Snipes' Blade. Oh my gosh. I literally sat forward in my seat. I'm glad I had finished my popcorn, because I would have spilled it on the floor. I was like, oh my gosh, Blade is here. Because not only is that, it's just very interesting because they're trying to make a new Blade movie with Mahershala Ali that hasn't gotten off the ground yet. You have a couple digs in here with Wesley Snipes being like, oh, there may have been, 5 different Punishers, but there's only going to be one Blade. Oh, that's such like a cut at Mahershala Ali or whoever the next Blade is going to be. Much less you're talking about Sticky Fingers, if you remember the Spike TV show from back in the day. The rapper who was Blade for a while, for like a short season of TV. That was awesome. And then you also have like the whole background of Ryan Reynolds got his start being a movie star in Blade Trinity, and apparently him and Wesley Snipes did not get along whatsoever. So here you have come full circle 20 years later for Ryan Reynolds to be like, hey, you gave me my start, or not him specifically, but like that movie, that franchise gave him his start in Hollywood after being a TV actor on that 3 Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place TV show, I think. And, breaking out there from Blade Trinity, jumping over to Wolverine Origins a couple years later, to being Wade Wilson Deadpool in that movie. And then here's the 3rd Deadpool movie. So it's like building on all of that from him starting in that Blade Trinity movie where everybody's like, hey, that guy should be Deadpool, because he was basically playing Deadpool in that film. So it just comes full circle, and it's kind of cool to see like, hey, you can get along with somebody, you can not get along with somebody, but you don't have to be a jerk to them for all time, right? People get older, they get wiser, they forgive, they forget, and it's just like, hey, here's an example of that in Hollywood. You know what I mean? We can be better to everybody all the time. So it was such a cool feeling to be like, oh my gosh, that's Blade, and then realize all this backstory of like, weren't they not supposed to get along? Don't they not like each other? And it was like, yay, that was 20 years ago. How many people have you met from high school that you didn't like 20 years ago, and now you're like, if I saw them on the street, if I would pick them up out of their puddle of their own vomit, sure, I would give them a helping hand. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. It's 20 years ago. Who cares? Like, that kind of feeling was so cool. So that's Blade. And then, walks in fucking Gambit. Oh my God. Channing Tatum as Gambit. And he's got this stupid accent. He's trying really, really hard to do the Cajun French accent. Trying really hard. I don't know if he pulled it off, but it was funny for him to try anyway. And he's got the dumbest costume on. It's like, here's a half-baked version of a Gambit costume. Like, Elektra's costume was an evolution of her costume in the Elektra movie. Blade's costume was an evolution of whatever he had on last in Blade Trinity. And then you have Gambit, who's like, I stepped out of the concept art department in the development, because this is as far as they got with my costume. Yes, I was going to have purple, and I was going to have the headpiece, and we never really developed it further than that. Like, it's almost as if he stepped out of X-Men 97 into the Deadpool movie, into the void kind of thing. Like, there's not a lot of the modernization of the textures and the extra pieces and things like that. Like, you look at Wolverine's costume versus Gambit's costume, which is just straight up ripped from the 90s pages. It's just hilarious. So if you don't know the backstory, I had to explain this to my wife a little bit after the movie. Channing Tatum signed on for a Gambit movie. They brought him out at Comic-Con at the last Marvel Fox panel. I don't know if X-Men Apocalypse is coming out or if it's Dark Phoenix, but basically it was like the last big panel. There was an X-Men movie they were promoting. There was, I think, the first Deadpool movie, and they were saying, hey, we're going to make a Gambit film. Here's Channing Tatum. He's wearing a Gambit t-shirt. So like, he's in all of these production pictures of the Fox X-Men universe at that time. Similar to like, remember Universal's Dark Universe with the Mummy, Tom Cruise, and Russell Crowe is going to be the Wolfman. Benicio del Toro, or no, there was some other guy that was going to be something else. And they had all these things going on, right? Dr. Frankenstein, that never came to be. It was the movie universe that never happened. So Gambit is like one piece of this movie universe that did happen, but his piece never happened. So to have him be in the void as like this half-cooked character was hilarious. I love that part. Not even to mention the fact that they didn't forget about the Fantastic Four. Chris Evans shows up. It's just the best moment. I literally thought he was... I thought it was Captain America because he had like a red sleeve on underneath this cloak, and his voice was clearly like, I felt like, is it Chris Evans? But then it is Chris Evans, and you're like, oh my God, it's Captain America. Huge pop in my theater. My wife's loving it. She's a huge Chris Evans Captain America fan. Huge pop from her. And then for him to drop the act and be like, flame on, it was still like, oh. He remembers, they remember, we remember. Everybody fell in love with Chris Evans as the Human Torch in those first two Fantastic Four movies, of which I say are not that terrible. I still think Rise of the Silver Surfer is a pretty good film. I had a t-shirt from that movie for a long, long time of that Silver Surfer. I love that design. I love Doug Jones' portrayal of that. And we had Lawrence Fishburne doing the voice in that movie. That was cool. Even though Galactus was a cloud, it wasn't that cool. But the Silver Surfer thing, I think they got absolutely right in that movie. So I don't think those movies are too terribly bad. Even if you can track down the Fantastic Four, I think it's the extended edition or director's cut, it's got a little bit more with Alicia, who is played by the girl from Scandal. Oh gosh, what's her name? I'm blanking on her name now, but she's a very, very good actress. Won some Emmys and stuff. I believe she won some Emmys. She's phenomenal in it. And there's a lot more of her character in there and like the interplay with her and Ben and just more character work between all the Fantastic Four characters in that film, even though some of the effects are unfinished in that version of the film. If you can track that down and find that, that's a great version to watch rather than the theatrical ones that's just kind of so-so. But anyway, I love that they are calling back to the Fantastic Four there also. It's not just the X-Men. Hey, we had these other characters. We had Blade. We had Fantastic Four. We had, if only their Ghost Rider showed up or something like that. All these different Fox characters. I love that we got a little goodbye to them. And we had Daphne Keane come back as X-23 as Laura. I love that for her. She's doing stuff in The Acolyte. She's still acting. She was on 3 seasons of His Dark Materials on HBO. I've watched the first 2 seasons. She's great in that. If you haven't watched that, it's pretty good. It's not bad. I've read the books when I was a kid, so I need to watch the 3rd season, the final season. James McAvoy is also in that, another X-Men guy. Anyway, lots of stuff to love here. But as a Deadpool film, I feel like I was saying 10 minutes ago or something, it's kind of more fan service the movie as opposed to Deadpool the movie. And there was so much stuff focused around Deadpool and Wolverine, of course, to the 2 title characters, that it didn't really feel like there was a huge plot. It was more like, hey, we need to do something where we can have a bunch of cameos, we can have Hugh Jackman back, and not have everything spoiled the way that the 20th Century Fox fight was spoiled. So let's kind of keep it kind of small, not a huge impact. But it felt real, like the story still felt like the $60 million Deadpool film in the first one that expanded it to a little bit bigger budget in the second one. And the story, story-wise, it's kind of the same as everything else. So maybe they leveled up the budget and the effects and stuff like that, but they didn't level up the story as much as I would have liked in such a big blockbuster film. You know what I mean? So in that way, I think it works as a trilogy of these Deadpool films about Wade and his family of characters, which I think got short shrift in this movie, right? Vanessa got a little bit here. Shatterstar's still there. Peter got more of a joke here. X-Force. Didn't see Domino. But you still had those, Dopinder, the taxi driver guy, right? He's still there. They were a focus of it because Wade's like, I'm trying to save my family, but they were barely in the movie. So I don't know. It's kind of win-lose. So it feels like it tracks with Deadpool 1 and 2 with those characters kind of revolving around them, but you still kind of lose all those characters because you're gaining Deadpool, you're gaining all these other Fox characters. So I guess it works. Would I have loved to have seen Deadpool join the MCU and seen all the other main MCU cameos? Sure. But I kind of really, the more I think about it, the more I like that this was more self-contained to just be in that Fox universe and really be a goodbye to that era. So I guess it was working more for me now upon reflection than I thought it did going into recording this video 15 or 20 minutes ago. So there's a lot to love here. Sean Levy, the director, I mean, you've had 3 different directors now for Deadpool. You had Tim Miller on the first one. You had, was it David Leitch on Deadpool 2? Now you have Sean Levy, who did Fall Guy and The Adam Project with Ryan Reynolds. So they're a team to watch now if they go and do a 4th movie. But Sean Levy, I think, leveled up here. He's done a pretty good job. The action scenes were fun. They were very well choreographed. I felt like I could follow everything, even though they were a little bit more limited in terms of this movie than the last 2. Like the Deadpool 2, I love those action sequences because you had so much variety. You had Deadpool with the guns and the swords. You had Cable with the big gun. Then you had Colossus, and then you had Juggernaut, and you had all those other characters. You had more of a display of different types of powers, I guess. Whereas this one, with the 2 different fight scenes with Deadpool and Wolverine, like the fight between themselves in the van, very limited. And you also had the fight in the desert with those guys, very limited. Claws and swords, claws and swords. And then the final fight with Deadpool versus the Deadpool Corps with Wolverine in the bus, claws and swords, claws and swords. It's kind of like the same thing 3 different times, I guess. So they expanded on it. Each one got a little bit bigger, but it didn't excite me again and again and again. Like literally during the van fight scene, I was a little bit like, all right, this is going on a little bit long. Like I know my wife's not into a lot of violence. She's probably like, you know, she didn't look away, which normally she does. Like we were watching The Boys and she looks away a lot during The Boys. The Boys feels a little bit more gritty and I guess is more cartoony. Maybe that's why she didn't look away as much. But I could tell that she was just getting a little bit bored during that van fight scene. And I honestly was getting a little bit bored during the Deadpool Corps fight scene because that one shot, as cool as it is to follow the fight through the bus, maybe it just was too slow, went on a little bit too long, or back to the whole thing of variety of action. You know, we didn't get it that much here. We didn't work in like a huge car flip or, you know, big other action set piece. It's more fights focused. So I don't know. Maybe that's just me. It's being like, hey, we got 3 types of the same fight scene in one movie. Maybe we could have changed it up a bit. But there's lots of love in this movie. Like I just talked about all the cameos. Wolverine pulling on his mask. My wife asked me, she's like, what's your favorite part of the movie? I was like, honestly, it was Wolverine pulling on his mask. He had the suit on the whole time, but pulling that mask on and seeing it, like we'd seen it in the not promo art per se, because all the promo art is him without the mask with Hugh Jackman's face, but all of the merchandising and stuff that we've seen, like we knew it was there. We've seen the Hot Toys figures, we've seen the action figures, like, but where is it in the film? We hadn't seen that yet. So to have that be a moment that we'd not seen in any of the trailers and stuff was really, really cool. And that was my favorite moment where he's reaching behind his head and it's like, oh man, is it coming? Is it coming? Is it coming? There it is. And to have them actually have the white eyes in the film the way that Deadpool has white eyes, like I really liked that. I don't know if it worked the whole time the way it works for Deadpool, because Deadpool, they figured out a way to make his mask expressive, or at least CGI it so it's very expressive. I don't think it worked the way for Wolverine, so I don't know if I'm like 100% behind White Eyes Wolverine all the time in films, or if the next one I'm like, hey, take him away and make it more like Batman in movies. I'm not really sure, but I did appreciate the effort. I thought the mask looked fantastic, looked phenomenal, and I like the way that he kept it on in the finale when they lose all their clothes, their shirt, and he's still got the mask on walking back up, and he's like, hey, you're all right, fans, we're going to have the mask on for like the rest of the film for you guys. I love that. I did like the references that Deadpool was making, like, oh, it took him 20 fucking years to get the mask on and get you in a suit, finally, all that stuff. And then the last scene, he's looking at Logan being like, you know, you're going to be Wolverine till your last dying breath, all the breaking the fourth wall references. I didn't really, I liked some of the jokes in the beginning with the meta jokes with the Marvel Fox universe, but some of them just didn't land. So I feel like this one maybe for me is a little bit less funny than Deadpool 1 and 2. I felt like those were funnier films maybe because they're relying less on meta jokes with contracts and Hollywood and stuff and more on actual things that are funny. You know what I mean? Like if you watch this film in a couple of years, is that stuff still going to be funny or is it just going to be old news at that point? You know what I mean? in 20 years when, if you have a kid and you decided to show your kid the Deadpool movies when they're old enough, are they going to laugh at those jokes? You're going to have to explain them. Are they still going to be funny? Like, in some ways, that juvenile humor of the first two is still funnier than the meta stuff because it's always going to be funny. You know what I mean? So maybe it's a little bit less funny for me. So I don't know. I know that I like this movie a whole lot. I know that I am going to recommend you see it and see it again. If you haven't seen it, why are you still watching this? Because I told you it was spoiler filled. But overall, my reaction is I had a great time watching this movie. I'd probably give it like 4 out of 5 stars or something like that. Like, not a perfect film for me, but boy, was it a whole lot of fun. And it's something I want to go watch again, especially with a packed theater. Like, I'm thinking about that again and again the more and more I think about it. Like, there are so many fun things. I'm so glad I remained unspoiled. It was so hard. I mean, it wasn't hard because I went on Friday night, but I'm so glad I went Friday night because literally Saturday morning I woke up and I'm scrolling through Facebook or whatever, like eating breakfast, and there's just like articles on CBR talking about Blade or Wesley Snipes coming back on Saturday morning. It's like, guys, there's 4 days in this weekend cycle. Like, I know it opened Thursday and it's Saturday, but holy cow, you could give it one more day to save these articles till Sunday, but nope. Saturday apparently was the day where it was spoiler free on Deadpool. So good luck to all of you who are, hope you had good luck if you are watching this and you remained unspoiled through Sunday or Monday if you're watching this at a later date. I don't know how you did it, but good on you. I don't think I would have made it that long, honestly, the way my algorithm works or whatever. So I'm glad I went early. But boy, oh boy, this was such a fun movie. I had such a good time with it. So those are my thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine. Let me know what you guys thought of the movie down below. What was your favorite moment in the movie? Let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about it. We'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.